un'ora segnata dal destino batte nel cielo della nostra patria. L'ora delle decisioni irrevocabili. La dichiarazione di guerra è già stata consegnata agli ambasciatori.
We usually identify the Italian fascist leader by his powerful speeches and his attitude as a ruthless soldier. But in addition to his political career, he had a personal life full of secrets, deceit, dead children, and imprisoned women. Benito Mussolini's family is a mystery that historians have sought to unravel since the end of World War II. In this new installment of military history, we offer you an exclusive pass to the intimacy of one of the cruelest men of the 20th century and the brutal fate that befell his wives, lovers, and children. Benito Amilcare Andrea Mussolini was born on July 29, 1883 in Dovia, a village in the municipality of Predapio, in the province of Forlì-Cesena. His father was the blacksmith Alessandro Mussolini, while his mother, Rosa Maltoni, was a teacher who firmly believed in the importance of education. Curiously, the name was chosen by his father, a local socialist leader in memory of Benito Juarez, a reformist hero and former president of Mexico, of Amilcare Cipriani, an Italian anarchist patriot, and of Andrea Costa, the first socialist deputy elected to the Italian parliament. From the beginning, his life was linked to politics.
Like so many in Romagna, he is raised in a family of radical socialists who are often jailed for their political beliefs.
As a child, the future fascist leader received his primary education in Dovia and then in Predapio. As a teenager, he entered the Salesian school in Faenza, but was expelled for a fight with a classmate. He continued his secondary education at the Giosuè Carducci School in Forlimpopoli, where he obtained a license as a junior technician in September 1898. From November 1902, he lived in Switzerland after fleeing Italy to avoid compulsory military service, traveling from town to town and doing temporary jobs. After a turbulent period, he returned to his native country in 1904. An interesting aspect of the life of the fascist leader is his romantic relationships, as complex as they were bloated. He had many affairs and several deceptions, but some names stand out among others. The first of these is Ida Dalser, whom he allegedly married in 1914 and who became the mother of his firstborn son, Benito Albino. Unfortunately, her relationship with Mussolini did not end well, as she was later forcibly committed to an asylum by the fascist police. This was an operation to hide a partner who was embarrassing to the politician, who described the woman as dangerous, unbalanced, and criminal, calling her an enemy of the state. Dalser lived for 10 years behind bars in a very poor asylum, suffering extreme hardship as a political prisoner of her ex-husband. All information about her past was suppressed by the state, and only after the war was over did the news become known about her, when the documents were opened to historians and researchers.
But an edict from the city of Milan at the time did denote and state that Mussolini must have made payments in maintenance for the child to his wife Ida Dalser. But the child bearing Mussolini's name was forgotten about and neglected, never being fully accepted by his father.
As for his son, the young Benito Albino, rejected by his father and with his mother confined in a mental hospital, he was raised by employees and in schools where he was not allowed to receive visitors. Little is known about what kind of relationship he had with the fascist leader, but it is possible to assume that it was non-existent and distant. The young man had a tragic, premature death, about which there are not many certainties, but rather several versions that contradict each other. Some claim that he was also confined like his mother, and that he died in a mental asylum. Other sources suggest that he died in a naval battle during World War II. The only thing that is certain is that he was buried in 1942 at the age of 27. It is because of treatment like this that several academics have described Mussolini as one of the most heartless and brutal fathers of the time, even more so than his German peers who rarely showed such contempt for their offspring. Later, we will tell you how he treated the rest of his children. Long before his relationship with Dalser ended, the dictator had already met the woman who would become one of the most important people in his life, Rachele Guidi. She admired Mussolini, and after going on a date with him, they began a relationship. They eventually married on the 17th of December 1915 in a civil ceremony held in Treviglio, in the Lombardy region. A decade later, in December 1925, they renewed their vows in a religious service held at the height of the fascist boss's political rise. As his wife, she participated in a few public events.
Donna Rachele Mussolini presenzia l'inaugurazione della Casa della Madre del Bambino, nuova magnifica realizzazione dell'Opera Nazionale Maternità e Infanzia.
But Rachele mostly portrayed herself as an exemplary fascist mother and housewife. When they got married, she didn't wear white. There were no photographs, nor a grand ceremony. The fact is that both were very superstitious and believed that all these details could go against the couple's success. Such were their beliefs that, for example, they wouldn't sit at a table if there were 13 diners. According to family and friends of the couple, they were united until the end. Shortly before he was killed, Mussolini spoke to her on the phone and told her that she was the only woman he had ever truly loved. Later, we will learn another version that paints a quite different family picture of the great romance of the Italian dictator. With Rachele Guidi, they had 5 children: Etta, Vittorio, Bruno, Romano, and Anna Maria. Although Benito Mussolini was not a present and loving father to any of them, there are particular stories and preferences on the part of the fascist boss. Let's get to know the leader's offspring in detail. Apart from Albino, her rejected son, Etta was the eldest of the official clan. She was born before her parents married, and, because of her resemblance to Mussolini, she was her father's favorite. Some claim that their personalities were even similar, as the girl was haughty and had a lot of character. Etta liked a luxurious life and expensive objects, and she got angry when her parents did not give her what she asked for. To meet her demands and generate political ties, Benito arranged the marriage between Etta and Count Galeazzo Ciano, who became an important figure within Italian fascism. He was the Minister of Foreign Affairs, so together with his wife, they made numerous trips to Nazi Germany before the start of the war. However, Ciano was not liked by the Reich because they considered him prone to treason, so when they entered Italy, they arrested him and shot him. Etta managed to escape to Switzerland with her children. Although history says that she was her father's favorite, she never returned his kindness. In one of her most famous quotes, she said, "The only thing that can help my father is to escape or commit suicide." Next in line in the official clan was Vittorio, who was born in 1916 and soon became an enthusiastic fascist, so much so that he enlisted as a pilot at the age of 19. He was the one who demonstrated the greatest political ability, as he negotiated numerous safe conduct passes with the Third Reich. The son of Deuce, the propaganda name by which the fascist leader became known in political life, married in 1937, causing great commotion.
Rome, a great day for Italy and the family of Mussolini. Lieutenant Vittorio of the Air Force is being married to Signorina Orsala Buvoli. The bridegroom, of course, is son of Il Duce. So great was the excitement that special passes were issued to people living in the neighborhood of the church.
But not everything was rosy in Vittorio's life. It was a difficult time, and he himself was the one who intervened to achieve the peaceful surrender of the Italian fascist hierarchy in April 1945, when it was clear that World War II was lost. Once the war was over, he fled and remained in deep anonymity until his death in 1997. Very little is known about Bruno, Rachele, and Benito's third son. He was born in 1918, and there is only a record of his passion for airplanes, which in 1941 became his downfall when he tested a bomber in World War II. The machine crashed, killing the young man. The reports of the time do not speak of an important funeral or great sorrow on the part of the fascist dictator, but the truth is that he was never an affectionate person, not even in times of tragedy. Romano and Anna Maria were born much later than their older brothers, so they had very little relationship with them and their father. During his childhood, Mussolini was completely preoccupied with relations with Germany and the imminent outbreak of continental war. It is said that they loved their father very much, but saw him only sporadically. As an adult, Romano became a successful jazz pianist, while Anna Maria worked for years as a radio presenter. Let's listen to the talents of the dictator's youngest son. It is impossible to underestimate the importance of Rachele Guidi in her husband's career, although she always remained in the shadows. She did not usually attend official events, nor did she appear in the press, and this allowed her to enjoy a certain anonymity. She traveled by bus around the city and then explained to the Duce what people were talking about in the street, something that the fascist used greatly in his speeches. This connection with the workers was one of the great banners of his government. On one occasion, the Minister of Agriculture proposed to the Duce to reduce wheat reserves, but Rachele Guidi warned him that this was madness, because it was the raw material for making bread, on which all the poor children depended for food. In the archives of the town of Forlì, in northern Italy, there is a telegram from September 8, 1942, in which Mussolini orders that the reserves of this sustenance be guaranteed, so his wife's advice was taken very seriously. When King Victor Emmanuel III summoned the Duce to Rome on July 25, 1943, Rachele also advised him, this time to wear a military uniform as he usually did. But this time, Mussolini did not listen to his wife, went dressed in civilian clothes as the monarch had requested, and was arrested. Thus ended his regime. Even if he had obeyed his wife on this occasion, it is unlikely that he would have escaped his fate. The discredit of his administration was evident, and after painful defeats, he had become a burden for Italy.
Italy's stab-in-the-back entry into the war. Visions of cheap conquest which were to vanish together with its sawdust Caesar, fascism, the Italian Empire, and after over 3 years of catastrophic warfare, the unconditional surrender of the Italian nation.
Beyond his importance as an Italian leader, the truth is that the most famous photograph taken of the Duce is not exactly an honorable capture. The most celebrated and brutal image is that of 5 corpses hanging upside down, which are the object of mockery and ridicule by a war-weary crowd. Among these lifeless remains is the fascist leader Benito Mussolini and that of a woman. Many, upon seeing her, confuse her with his wife of 3 decades, Rachele Guidi, but it is not her. Next to the dictator was Clara Petacci, his lover, a figure who was fundamental in the last years of the Second World War and who accompanied the man until his death at the hands of an angry people. Although she could have fled, Petacci preferred to stay with him and end her days with the man she had always loved. Clara Petacci, Claretta, as she was known to those closest to her, was born in Rome on February 28, 1912, to a bourgeois family. The head of the clan, Francesco Saverio Petacci, was part of Pope Pius XI's medical team and ran a high-end clinic in Rome. Her mother, Giuseppina Persichetti, was a fervent Catholic, and it was rare to see her without a rosary in her hands. The young woman had artistic talents and studied music as a student of the Italian violinist and composer, Corrado Archibughi. Clara also had great physical attractiveness and an intelligence that surprised everyone who met her. She loved reading and wrote everything down in her diary, but there was one quality about her that ended up marking her entire life. From her teenage years, she was attracted to the figure of Benito Mussolini. In fact, her student room was wallpapered with photos of the dictator, who at that time was already around 50 years old.
She desired to be someone important in life, and she wished for a career in the arts as an actress or as a painter. She became engaged to Riccardo Federici, an officer with the Italian Air Force, and they later got married in 1934. However, her life had changed 2 years before, when she first met the man she dreamed of meeting for so long.
Chance had it that on 24 April 1932, a 20-year-old Clara Petacci crossed paths with Benito Mussolini. She was traveling with her family and her fiancé on the road from Rome to Ostia. Suddenly, an Alfa Romeo overtook the family car at full speed, and Clara, seeing who the driver of the vehicle was, began to shout excitedly, "El Duce! El Duce!" Then Claretta, who had already sent her several letters declaring her admiration, was perplexed when the dictator's car stopped and agreed to exchange a few words with her. It was love at first sight, and from then on they kept in touch more and more frequently. Clara was truly in love with the leader, and was a devoted and unconditional lover, although she was not the only one nor the first. Mussolini's audiences with Clara took place on Sundays after Mass at the Palazzo Venezia in Rome. Over time, they ceased to be sporadic and became an everyday occurrence. The wife of the fascist leader, Rachele Guidi, was well aware of her husband's relationship with that woman, 29 years younger than him, and despite her every attempt to keep him away from her, she was unsuccessful. She had to watch as the young woman moved to the exclusive Villa Cameluccia neighborhood in Rome and walked through the streets of the capital with a chauffeur and accompanied by bodyguards provided by the state. Mussolini was a jealous man. He forced Clara to seclude herself in a luxurious apartment where the young woman spent hours documenting everything with great care.
Mussolini would regularly call Petacci a number of times each day, sometimes for long periods of time, and she was known to be rather jealous, and these calls eased her mind.
In her diary, she left detailed descriptions of her intimate relations with the dictator and also expressed her political ideas. When she had to flee Italy in haste, she gave more than 2,000 pages to her friend, Countess Rina Cervis, who buried them in the garden of her villa in Brescia. This document was discovered in the 1950s by the police and published as a book several decades later. Beyond what happened in the secret Sunday meetings, for the Italians, the Duce had only one wife, Rachele Guidi. Her story is curious, since she was the daughter of one of the lovers of Alessandro, Mussolini's father, which even led to speculation about the possibility that they were siblings. The fact is that Rachele patiently suffered all the infidelities of her husband, who had relations with aristocrats, right-wing and left-wing bourgeois women. Even with Maria Jose of Saxe-Coburg-Gotha, wife of the heir of King Victor Emmanuel of Savoy III. But Clara was different. Rachele knew that the young woman had come to stay, and perhaps even to replace her. And she ultimately succeeded, albeit in the worst of circumstances. Before long, everything seemed to fall apart for Mussolini. In July 1943, he was expelled from the government by the king, then imprisoned and sent to prison on Monte Gran Sasso. There he was released by the Germans and settled on Lake Garda, where he presided over a puppet government of the Third Reich, the Italian Social Republic, better known as the Republic of Salo. At the beginning of 1945, Clara was reunited with her beloved. But when he saw that the end was imminent, Mussolini prepared the departure of his lover and that of Rachele herself and her children. He told them that there was a car waiting to take them to the airport and take a plane to Spain, where he assured them they would be well treated. Clara flatly refused to leave the fascist leader. In fact, it was her last chance to be the only woman in his life. On April 27, 1945, Mussolini made a final attempt to escape from the Allies, but was eventually captured by a patrol of partisans. The dictator was taken from the town hall in Dongo to a private home, for fear that the Germans or the Allies themselves might take him away. Again, Clara asked to stay with Mussolini, despite the partisans having offered her to escape. The next day, April 28th, all the occupants of the vehicle, including Petacci, were shot and their bodies taken to Milan, where they would be hung by their feet for posthumous public ridicule. It was there, that the photo with which we began the story about Mussolini's young mistress was taken, and it is an appropriate endpoint to this analysis of the family tree of the terrible fascist leader. During his government and leadership, Benito Mussolini tried to portray himself as a powerful and masculine man who represented all the values of classical Italy. However, his personal life was stormy and untidy, with numerous lovers, neglected children, and mistakes that cost him his life. Just like the Nazi leaders, who outwardly professed a harsh morality that they never fulfilled in their bedrooms, meeting the family of the fascist dictator is a glimpse into the mind of one of the cruelest men of his generation. In this way, we come to the end of the video. If you like this type of content in which we delve into the personal history of great political leaders and feared military chiefs, we invite you to subscribe and activate the notifications of our channel. In this way, you will receive notices when we upload new material. Without further ado, we say goodbye until the next installment of Military History. Thank you for joining us.